In today's work environment, employees are protected by a variety of safety laws, rules, regulations, and of course, concerned employers. Safety is just good business, and it requires a team effort and responsibility by all employees. Safety engineers have always relied upon three essentials called the 3 E's: education, engineering, and enforcement. Education means training, explaining the proper procedures of job responsibilities, safety rules, and, of course, constant awareness for working and acting safely. Accident prevention through education and training. Engineering is finding safety hazards and correcting them before they contribute to an accident. Engineering also includes proper selection of equipment and facilities. Engineering focuses primarily on physical hazards in the workplace, but can also include job safety analysis, ergonomics, and other safety engineering functions. The third E is enforcement of safety rules. It doesn't do any good to have rules if they aren't enforced. This program addresses the enforcement of safety rules, so let's begin with some information relating to the causes of most injuries in the workplace. Accident statistics from all industries have been compiled over the years by insurance companies and governmental agencies. The results of analyzing hundreds of thousands of accidents reveal 85 to 98% of all accidents result from the unsafe acts of employees. There may be more than one cause of an accident, but most accidents are caused, in whole or in part, by the unsafe acts of employees. Does this mean employees intentionally hurt themselves, or they don't care, or that they're irresponsible? No. Quite often it's the hard-working, dedicated, loyal employee who gets busy and tries to take a shortcut, or simply isn't thinking about safety and contributes to the accident cause. Now let's explain how this can occur. Remember, we're talking about great employees, people wanting to do a good job, and certainly people who want to be accident-free. What is an unsafe act? An unsafe act is any personal characteristic or condition that may cause or influence an employee to act unsafely. These conditions may be mental, emotional, or physical. Some of the types of unsafe acts could be unaware of the job hazard, inattention to job hazards, low level of job skill, or being inadequately trained for a specific job. It could be the employee tried to avoid extra effort or tried to gain or save time by taking a shortcut. A slip and fall is an unsafe act because the employee could have prevented the slip and fall if he or she had been paying attention to the walking surface. Attention to the walking surface can prevent slips and falls, even if the floor is uneven, slippery, wet, or has a physical hazard such as a hole or torn carpet. Certainly, the unsafe condition of the floor should be corrected, but that's not a reason to slip and fall. Inattention to the walking surface contributed to the accident. A laceration or cut is the result of not paying attention to the job or neglecting to take the precautions necessary to prevent the injury. Every time you begin to use a knife or box cutter, say to yourself, "This is a finger cutter." This one little mental reminder is enough to alert you that special precautions must be taken to prevent an injury in the event the knife or box cutter slips from its intended cutting path. A back injury is also an unsafe act. If you lift properly, it's difficult to injure your back. Even in difficult lifting conditions, it's up to you to use your good judgment on the safest method of lifting to protect your discs and to prevent ligament damage or strains. We could go on, but this gives you a better understanding and awareness of what an unsafe act is and how it's your responsibility to prevent unsafe behavior. That old safety slogan, "Think Safety," means just that. Think about what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and then use your judgment to perform the job without accidents or injuries. You're the only person who has control over unsafe acts. One more example. Let's say you fall off a ladder. The unsafe act contributing to the fall was perhaps your inattention to the footing, or perhaps you exceeded the limitations of the ladder. You contributed to the accident. What if the ladder was defective? Still an unsafe act? Certainly. It's your responsibility to inspect equipment before you use it. Therefore, if you'd inspected the ladder before using it, you'd have found the defect and you wouldn't have used the ladder until it was repaired or replaced. Let's move on to the enforcement of safety rules and what happens when you experience an accident or injury as a result of an unsafe act. Enforcement of safety rules has always been management's responsibility. Management is required to investigate accidents and take corrective action to prevent similar accidents. But it's a little more complicated than that. Management is legally required to enforce safety rules. For a safety program to be judged effective, there are several elements or tests the program must pass. 1. Does the company have written safety rules and procedures? 2. Are employees advised of these rules through education and training? 3. Is the training documented? Documentation includes what information was taught, when it was taught, and who provided the instruction. 4. Are safety hazards identified and corrected? This is why routine safety inspections are necessary, as well as action taken to correct identified deficiencies. And 5. Are safety rules enforced? If yes, management must prove this with documentation. That's what we want to talk about now. How do you document that rules are enforced? When an employee causes an accident or injury through an unsafe act, the employee must be told what he or she did wrong, and management must explain how to correct the unsafe behavior. We call it a safety counseling. It's not disciplinary action. The employee isn't being called on the carpet to face a chewing out. It's a requirement for management to explain what type of behavior or unsafe act caused the accident. An employee can't be expected to correct something without knowing what it is that needs correcting. After explaining the unsafe act, management is obligated to explain how to correct the deficiency. If it's a back injury, perhaps additional training in the safe lifting technique is needed. If it's a slip and fall, a reminder to watch where the person is walking is all that's necessary. The employee should be given a time period in which to correct the deficiency. In most cases, it'll be right away. If safety rules are not enforced, which is documented by this safety counseling, then the company's safety program is not legally effective. Safety counselings serve several purposes, but the two most important purposes are the company is ensuring all safety rules are enforced, which is for the benefit of all employees in the workplace. Everyone benefits from a safe and healthful workplace, but more importantly, the person experiencing the accident or injury is provided information and training to help prevent a similar incident in the future. Everyone wins. A minute ago, we stated safety counselings were not disciplinary action. That's very true. However, if an employee continues to demonstrate unsafe behavior contributing to additional accidents or injuries, disciplinary action may be taken on that particular employee. The objective of any safety program is to prevent accidents and injuries. If a person cannot or will not perform his or her job safely, then that person should not continue to jeopardize other employees or themselves by continuing in the work environment. Now, this rarely occurs, but it does happen. Safety is serious business, and all employees must accept the responsibility for working and acting safely. Now, that brings us to the question of the accident-prone employee. Now, there really aren't accident-prone employees. There are employees who have more injuries than others. This relates more to their attitude, experience, training, awareness, and safety behavior. Perhaps they haven't been counseled so as to affect a change in their safety behavior. Don't blame accidents on accident proneness. Training, education, supervision, and counseling is the most effective method of changing accident proneness to good safety behavior. One last thing and we're finished. If you're really conscientious and take the time to perform your job in a safe and healthful manner, that's what's going to happen. If you watch where you walk, you won't slip and fall. If you see a safety hazard, correct it or report it so it can be corrected. Safety is really nothing more than preventing accidents by your personal behavior. It's not complicated, and it certainly doesn't take time to think safety. It's a personal responsibility you have when working. It's a personal responsibility when driving your car, or at home, or during recreation. Think of the possible hazard, then use your good judgment to avoid accidents and injuries. Slips and falls, cuts, lacerations, back injuries, muscle strains, these can be eliminated easily, quickly, and certainly without any extra effort. You're worth it. So attack those unsafe acts, and it'll make your job easier and much safer.